GM, we are live, and our long national nightmare is over. We now have the schedule. We don't have to guess who's playing in a dome week 17. We don't have to worry that Jared Goff might have to go outdoors in Chicago in a blizzard. We have the entire week 15 through 17 schedule here, which is pretty exciting stuff. Definitely some clear winners and potentially losers from this, but was able to hop on here at the last minute. Best ball on call. Real ones are here. Well, you are indeed one of the realists. So thank you so much for stopping by. Lutz, GM. I was about to hop into a puppy, but wanted to first just go over a couple of the teams that I think were clear winners in the best ball playoff week sweepstakes here. And Detroit and Houston, I think, stand out kind of head and shoulders above everybody, getting all three games in a dome. You have Detroit playing at the Rams and then at home to the Steelers and Vikings. You could maybe argue that the Steelers might not be the world's greatest opponent, but being at home, I'm not too worried about any kind of defense slowing down what the Lions do. And again, if that game was in Pittsburgh, I know, this we knew who was going to be home and away, so that wouldn't have happened. Pittsburgh, at Detroit, not too bad. Lutz says Arizona feels like a winner to me. Absolutely. I think they're another big winner. 2 dome games to start out, and then they play at Cincinnati. Obviously we'd prefer that Cincinnati game to be in Arizona, but Cincinnati's defense last year was pretty dismal. And I don't really, I don't think it's going to be significantly improved. So if we're not afraid of, drizzly weather, it's usually not like Arctic in Cincy, but, it could be a mixed bag. It might not be the most pleasant environment. But yeah, Arizona to me, like you said, feels like a winner. The Texans, they get all 3 games in a dome. That's pretty nice. The Colts have a few. They close week 16 and 17 with the Niners at home. Niners, a little tough to project exactly what we're going to get out of that game, but certainly, if the Niners offense is good, we could see a game where both teams get pushed there. And then Colts Jags in a dome week 17 feels like one of the bigger smashes on the board. The Raiders, they go at Philly, which kind of stinks. I don't like that they have to play at Philly week 15. But then their last 2 games are at Houston and at home against the Giants. So I'm, if we're going to project things way too in advance, we could see something like your Gene Tees and your Bowers having a tough time making it to the semis. But then if you can squeak them through, they could be absolute smashes. I'm not saying they're going to be bad against Philly. It's, it's so hard to predict things in the future, but Philly does have a fairly elite defense. Geno Smith definitely better in a dome than outdoors. So, we could run into an instance where those players end up being absolutely huge week 16 and 17, but come in slightly lower ownership. But with all that ado out of the way, we'll keep talking schedule and whatnot, but let's get into a puppy. I'm going to join a 20-second puppy and immediately get the location error. So I'm going to have to fire this up on my phone. Bear with me because it's just going to do this until the end of time if I don't join another way. So let's get into here. 20-second puppy. All right, I'm hopping in. So I'm waiting for 9. If anyone wants to join, please feel free to hop in. I am going to let the Discord know, the Davis Maddock Discord know that we have a live puppy going on here. And as always, would love to do some of these more. We're now waiting for 7. Let me get the word out. Waiting for 7 in a 20-second puppy. They'll be streaming on the YT. All right. Let's see. Still waiting for 7. got getting the word out. See if anyone else wants to hop in this one. I was trying to present my other screen, and uh-oh, that's not what I meant to do. That is literally the exact opposite of the button I wanted to press. What have I done? All right, technical issues. we are not going to pull up the schedule chart, but we are going to pull up is that we're only waiting for one. So apologies for everyone who had to see, me in 720p at full zoom. Oh my gosh, I already see some legends in here. Kevin, don't know if you're in the chat, but you are in this room in the 6 hole. I've got the 8 hole. I don't think I recognize anyone else's name, but if you are in here, please let me know. Please let me know. So 2 badgeless people in the room. 4 people with goat horns in a row. That's interesting. So we'll see. We will see potentially a sharp room. Again, you don't really know anything about the people with no badge. They just may not. They may go outside occasionally. They may have a job. They may have lives outside of drafting best ball teams in May, and they have not yet earned their badge, but still could be very sharp players. Skeletor, GM Kevin, I am an advocate for the badgeless. I believe in them. I too once started with no badge. But I do sometimes wish that Underdog would do, give more information, because mostly just because I'm kind of interested in what people do. Like you get badges from daily contests, and it's definitely a lot easier to run up 1,000 battle royales than it is 1,000 sweaty best ball drafts. But it ends up being the same badge. I'm not saying they don't deserve a badge. I'm saying I like to know, because I have no idea. Chaz Michelson may have never done a best ball draft before, but he may be deep in the battle royale streets. I don't think that's true, because I actually think I recognize that username. But my point being is that they're at the point where the badges don't really give you any actionable information. But here we go. I'll pull up the draft board like this. I think people have generally preferred that. Yeah, it needs to update the badge system. Yeah, again, I'm not saying this in any kind of bad shamey way. I'm just saying it just doesn't give you any info. And I kind of liked when you could tell a little bit. It would be nice if there were separate badges from season long and dailies. Also wish we had custom avatars. I agree with the first part. I wish we had season long and daily ones. I used to think I wanted custom avatars, but I kind of like that we're all kind of in this little universe together. Hold on, I am up. I'm just going to take Puka here. Gene T would have been fine. I mean, anyone here is fine, but I don't really want my exposures to get too crazy, and I got no problem taking Puka at ADP. But yeah, I mean, DK, you can pick your own badge, and it ends up just being mostly like advertisements for people's favorite, tout service. And I'm not saying that is a bad thing, but when it's like this, it is interesting, what colors people pick, what dog people pick, and it keeps us all kind of in a similar range. So I don't mind it. It's aesthetically pleasing to me to see just all these dogs versus just seeing like Stochastic and, ETR and, Solver, Run the Sims or whatever people are putting in there. Can't get badges from Pick'ems. I don't know. I'm not in a Pick'em legal state, which has saved me tons of money, because every time I go to a Pick'em legal state, I say, this is it. I'm going to enter Pick'ems, and then I just lose money. It's a tradition that I really need to end. But yeah, no Pick'ems where I am. It's a little bit of a fall in Derrick Henry here, but I think I'm such a Drake London slappy that I'm just going to take. I am just going to take London. Atlanta got a pretty good run out with their playoff schedule. They're at Tampa, and then they're at home against the Cardinals and the Rams. I think we're going to I think we're going to see this Puka London pairing become more and more common because it's a week 17 matchup. And let me read these comments and then I'll go over some of my week 17 thoughts. Got it. You hate Badgers people. Understood. Your point was well stated. Yes, absolutely. I hope people, I hope that's the message that people picked up from that. I have Skotastic on DK because of the ring they give out, but I didn't use Sims for either of my big wins last year. See you, Kevin. Free advertisement for the good folks over at Stochastic. When they see you at the top of the leaderboard. But my week 17 thoughts, and this is, I'm not anti week 17. Week 17 truly is all that matter. That is where all the money is. But I worry people overfit week 17. I do not want every time I have Puka that I end up with Drake London. I don't think that's good. I know they're playing week 17. But if something happens to Drake London and Puka's a smash, and all of the times I have Puka, I have London, then I have just crushed my EV. So I think there's a tendency for us to break ties or, create these week 17 stacks that we can end up, these two guys, Puka and Drake London, are not correlated in the slightest until week 17. They have absolutely nothing to do with each other. So, if you want to think of the contest as quarters, weeks 1 through 14, 1 quarter, week 15, 1 quarter, 16, a quarter, 17, the final quarter, then for 3/4 of the contest, they have nothing to do with each other. So I don't want them together every time. And so I'm just want to caution people about the tendency of every single time breaking the tie to a week 17 thing, or what you're going to do is you're going to create the same team over and over, which I think is minus EV. I'm not saying ignore week 17. I'm not saying not to do it, but just be careful, dear listener, is what I would say. I would love Garrett Wilson. Terry McLaurin, I think, got a pretty good playoff schedule run out. He's the pick at ADP. I will happily take him. I don't have him memorized. Let's see. Washington plays at the Giants and then at home against Philly and Dallas. Again, the Philly game I don't love because their defense is pretty good. And McLaurin last year was pretty well shut down by the Eagles. That was kind of a Diami Brown game, if I remember right. I don't think McLaurin did a whole lot. The championship ring is sweet, though. I would love a championship ring, and I'm not even a Stochastic subscriber, but I would like that. I know, Liam famously wears his underdog ring. I would do the same thing. I would have it around my neck like I was, Frodo, and I simply would grow more and more attached to it and be unable to ever get rid of it. I could see that. I could see that arc in my life, but it's unlikely. I got to win BBM. I guess that's the hard part there. I'm just gonna take Jaden Daniels. I don't think there's going to be too much overthinking this. We'll build the Daniels McLaurin stack. I'm pretty happy to do that. During the big board era, that was pretty hard to get, but I will not look a gift horse in the mouth there when it can be difficult to get. McLaurin typically goes a little closer to over here. I find it's more often you get a falling Daniels than a falling McLaurin. At least most of my post-draft contests have been that way. I think Jamison Crowder had a playoff week. That might be right. I remember it being the ancillary pieces, but Skeletor, now that you say that, I think you have that right. CLN 2013, let's go. Thank you so much. Yeah, I did not think I was going to be able to stream today, but I was able to hop in last minute, so I appreciate everyone. I'm on a little later than I normally am. I typically try to go live between 8:30 and 9 a.m. Eastern time, but I've had a few real life things come up, and so I'm just happy to be here, happy to talk schedule week 17 stuff with all of you. It's certainly fun. We're starting to get that kind of drip of information. We've got rookie mini camp, which could be a little bit of a red herring, to be honest. It's hard for these supreme athletes who are all 24 and under to not look really good and really fast in these workouts, and they're not competing against the veterans; they're just competing against each other. So, a rookie who looks really good in mini camp, it's like, well, I kind of hope so, because who are they competing against? They're competing against the other rookies, and if they're a high draft pick, they were picked ahead of the other rookies that they're up against. So, it's one of those things where we can lead ourselves astray a little bit, but it is fun, and it is kind of the start of some of the rookie drum beats, to guys to start paying more attention to. And it's great for confirming priors on guys you liked. Like if you were an Isaac Tesla believer, he's gotten some decent coach speak, and it seems like he's doing a fairly good job with his mini camp stuff. But Burden was lining up in the slot. I mean, there it is. He was lining up in the slot. What I haven't heard yet, and I'm super disappointed because it's already May 15th. Next, Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's what people are saying. That's what people are saying, is that basically he just simply is plug and chug into the Ben Johnson Amon-Ra role, and we're fools for ignoring it. I would have happily taken Mixon there. Let me look at the board real quick. I'm up at 65, and I think I'm just gonna take. No, I'm gonna take Chuba if my fingers are fast enough. I'm gonna take Hubbard here. I do want to take a running back around 65. If all of these guys go, then I'll wish I had taken another. I wish I had taken a back. I can potentially double stack Daniels and Debo if I want to do that. But he'll likely be there at 66. We'll see. But this gives me a little optionality with the pick. I love Jalen Waddle. I would have been happy taking him. Waddle and Ridley are a couple of my favorite clicks in the range, but again, I am resisting the temptation to just keep building the same teams over and over. But yeah, Burden in the slot. That's if you were a Burden believer, this is just these are the priors that you want confirmed. Do you have any NFL end of season awards, long shots you like? Skeletor, I have only placed one. I placed one long shot NFL end of season award, and that was Jackson Dart Offensive Rookie of the Year at 35-1. I think that's a good price for someone who could potentially be the starting quarterback in boy, this is tough. Do I want a double stack or do I want Laporta? I think I'm in on Laporta. No, I'll double stack. I don't get to double stack this very often. We'll do it. I do love Laporta, and Detroit got such a good playoff schedule that I think Laporta is apt to be a riser. But it is hard to get this triple stack without reaching. So I'll run that. I'll run that this time. That's fine. But yeah, Jackson Dart. Back to Jackson Dart. The Giants' early season schedule is pretty darn tough. So there's a good chance that they're already in utter shambles. I think, do they have a week 5 bye? Did I make that up? They have a week 14 bye. I completely made that up. But their early season schedule, I don't have it in front of me, is extremely tough. So I could see Dart playing, week 6, week 7 on. And if he's any good, that's, big media market, New York rookies who do well, I think, have a little bit of edge in that kind of thing. 35-1 just feels like a good price for a prospect. I think a lot of us are potentially high on. Week 16 is rough for Detroit. Is that the Steeler game? I think that's a Steeler game that they're at home. Yeah, not ideal. Not ideal to be playing the Steelers, but I'm not too afraid there. Anytime they're at home, I'm going to be interested. I would have lost your mind if you took Laporta from me there. Oh, let's see what you've got going. Gibbs, JMO, and Laporta. So, yeah. I could see you being upset if I did that. I mean, I might just take Goff at at 80 to really just ruin your day. Yeah, Steelers. Yeah, that's not the best run out. But I remember last year it was like I think the Lions only had 3 games outside of a dome, but I think like 2 of them came in the fantasy playoffs, which was odd. Like the way that their schedule fell out. At least 1 out of the 3 games they had late was not in a dome. And this year they got all 3, which I do think, is not nothing. They're a very different team indoors from outdoors. And most of that is because Goff is a very different quarterback. Bears week 16 last year. Yeah. That's right. And that, the Bears, let's see, who are the Bears hosting? Chicago. They're home to Cleveland week 15. They're home against Green Bay in week 16, and then at San Francisco week 17. Luther Burden better be like the world's greatest slot receiver, because he did not get a particularly great run out. It's a little bit of a weird spot for me. I don't find myself taking a ton of Montgomery, but I don't mind him. I'll probably take either Judkins or Montgomery. Gosh, Cleveland is so gross. I'm gonna take Judkins. I'll take the young up and coming rookie here. I needed a running back on this team. Potentially could have taken Hawkinson, but I think once you're at the Hawkinson line, you can start taking those tight ends kind of in this Andrews, Ingram, Lovelandy sort of range, even maybe in Njoku and Kraft, and there's a little less fall off. Hawkinson to me is almost kind of in his own tier, past Laporta, but before Jonnu and Kelsey. And I think the ADP reflects that. He's kind of in his own like mini tier. He's been a little hard for me to rank because he missed a lot of the season last year, coming back from the ACL, but looked good once he was back. And, Vikings ended up with a pretty good schedule. They got, 2 out of 3 games in a dome, including week 15 against Dallas. And that could be a pretty big shootout. If we're just looking at other playoff weeks. JT Basketball GM been trying to check in as I can as another little guy in the streaming space, trying to show fellow little guys love. Yes, JT, I see you out there, and it's a tough journey, but it's been fun. I really do enjoy doing these drafts with everybody. And so yeah, I'm gonna have to stop by your stream next time you're live. I've had a lot of stuff come up in real life where I've been a little less engaged than I would like to be, but that's how it goes sometimes. I'll take Hawk here at pick 89. I'll do the really kind of newbie thing of building the entire lineup, every position from QB to flex. And it always feels really good when you do that, but I'm not really enamored with Shakir, B-Rob, or Pacheco. And I'll take a little bit of a value there on Hawkinson. So going over the team, I guess I'll just go over the team for the audio listeners. We've got Jaden Daniels at QB, Chuba Hubbard and Quinshon Judkins at running back, wide receiver room of Puka, Drake London, Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, and TJ Hawkinson. So got a little double stack for the Commanders. A little bit of week 17 correlation there against the Rams, and like the team so far, feel like I'm pretty good at most positions. I can't say I love Judkins as my RB2. I'm not super high on him. Tony Pollard to me is a pretty big step up in my estimation versus Judkins, but he's certainly very talented, big winner at the combine. I think he'll be pretty good. I do obviously have concern because Jerome Ford is still lurking there, and they drafted Sampson from Tennessee, who's a decent enough prospect. It wasn't like they took a total flyer on one of those kind of like Kyle Monangai types that are pretty late in the draft. Sampson was projected to get a decent amount of capital, so it might be a little bit of a confusing running back room, but let's see. My first stream should be tomorrow. May have a special guest. Awesome. Sounds good. Mainly at nights, 9:30 Central. Not many attack that space works for me timing wise. Also do mostly GK drafts again. Yes, you got to find your niche. And for me, it's been these kind of early morning streams, finding an underserved audience and just going after that. Hartman, GM, thank you so much for stopping by. Again, I am still trying to finalize my setup between where my cameras are and the mic is and my screens are. So I am hopefully this will not be the final product by the end of summer, but so far so good. Let's see, by ADP we've got this whole cluster of quarterbacks that I don't need. let's see, where am I picking again? I pick again at 113. I think I'm going to take, oh my gosh, I was going to take Harris. This is a disaster. This is not what I wanted to do. I thought Trey Harris was still on the board, actually. I'm going to take Jaylen Warren. Yep, that was my mistake for not having a better situation queued up. I've been taking a little more Jaylen Warren because I'm not as 100% confident that Caleb is going to get as much run as we hope. I do worry that Warren just keeps his exact job from last year, and it really is the Caleb show. I think it's a little bit unsettled there. Pittsburgh, their Pittsburgh's playoff week, they play the Raiders, they play Washington, and then they play the Dolphins, they play the Lions, and then they play Cleveland. So Dolphins and Lions is actually a pretty good run out. And then the Cleveland game just sounds to me like it's a 16-13 game in the rain that if you're watching Red Zone, you won't actually know what's happening because they never flip over to it. And if you do watch it, you are apt to just fall asleep. I would have taken Tootin at 112. That would have been my choice. I think I need a wide receiver, and I'm taking Keon Coleman. This is ugly, folks. I don't like taking Keon Coleman. I don't think he's very good, but I do think there is that potential for a second-year breakout in Buffalo. He's going to be out there on the field. Players do get better. I think that wide receiver situation is going to be an absolute mess. Kevin, did you really not take Goff? What's going on here? Let's inspect. Kevin says, I don't need Jared Goff with my Lions triple stack because I have Josh Allen. That is an interesting choice. I don't know if you're still here, but I would love to hear your thoughts there on Sharp. I mean, I like Sharps in a vacuum, but to me, if I already had Laporta, JMO, and Gibbs, I would take Goff and be done at 2 quarterback. Gotta push him since Amon-Ra is in the back half of. You are a braver man than I. Let me tell you what, because I think he's already past ADP, and we'll see if he comes around to you. I'm rooting for you. I am. Speak on that, Kevin. Yeah, Kevin. What you didn't know is that you are actually, part of the show here, and you have to answer when I need information. Been in on Warren also or past ADP. Yeah. He's a fine click. I mean, we've been clicking him for the last 2 years, and it's. I don't want to say it hasn't worked out, but it hasn't worked out as well as we want. What didn't work out is our friend Kevin trying to push Jared Goff. Let's see. He goes to the Bo Nix guy who has, let me count how many Lions he has. He doesn't have any Lions. But people are thirsty for QBs, and it is tough to push quarterbacks in some of these rooms. At least Keon is explosive, so he's viable for spike weeks. I hope he's explosive. I want to say he's explosive, but he the only thing he exploded were some of my DFS lineups last season when he would go 1 for 9 in biggest moment of the season. They throw they throw a screen to it wasn't Hopkins, it was the other Amari Cooper, biggest moment of the season to a total dust ball. Probably pushing him because he has Allen. He who dares wins. Well, I like that. ATX Bearcat. I think he was wishing you good luck, but it didn't happen. Win some, lose some. I know. But you know what? You have Zach Charbonnet. Tesla backstack about to go crazy. I mean, someone is watching mini rookie camp information. So I am coming up. Do I have any QBs I need? No, I don't think I should be considering that at this point. Again, another ugly position. I am not really excited by any of my options. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I'm going to take Tyler Warren. It's many good men have been lost trying to find the Colts tight end that is fantasy relevant. We have, over the years, sacrificed many of us to the altar of Mo Alley Cox and Granson and whomever else they rotate out there. Hopefully, Tyler Warren is the final answer for the tight end in Indy, because it's been a position that has really just ruined many good fantasy teams. But, has the QB thirst ever been like this on Underdog? Not in my recollection. I feel like people, normally that's a DraftKings thing. And people like to say it's because they give the 300-yard bonus, so QBs are a little better. I think that's just, kind of cope. I don't think that's why. I think people on DraftKings are just generally not as sweaty as us Underdog people. And you get a lot of people coming from, DFS or just their sports book dipping their toe in, and they're just, they just are going to build differently. I'm not saying they're building worse, but they're definitely, not following the same sort of rules and thoughts as we are. All right, boy, this is so. I don't want any of these receivers all that badly. I could potentially take Penix. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just taking Penix here. I'm going to take Penix. This way I can just end at 2 QBs. I can do Daniels, Penix. I have Drake London. There's a chance Kyle Pitts comes around to me. If he doesn't, I'm not going to be too upset. I would have been upset if I took Pitts as a third tight end and then didn't get Penix. My late QB options is really limited to Matt Stafford, and he's the kind of guy people randomly take, and you've got to worry about the Devontae drafter, and now people are a little woke to Tutu Atwell. People convince themselves that like Jarquez Hunter's a receiving back, and so they make that stack. So I don't really want to have to like completely rely on that. Is it slightly? Yeah. So anyway, I'm happy to end up with Mr. Penix there. Tyler Algier might make more sense than potentially Pitts, being that I do want to build out my running back room a little more. It's a little thinner than I might necessarily like to be, but not the worst spot. If I'm making the bet on Hubbard and Judkins, then I kind of got to just believe those are the guys. Let's see what Kevin does. Kevin has added Jaden Blue and Hollywood Brown to his team. That makes sense. Jaden Blue has been rising quite a bit in the drafts I have been in. CLN says this is the first year where 90% of the starting QBs go before round 15. It feels like it to me. Yeah, it does. It does to me too. I mean, last year we could reliably get Bo Nixon like round 16, and we knew he was a day one starter, and we knew he had rushing upside. It was just a very different landscape. Like if this draft had a Bo Nix in it, he would be, I guess he'd probably be going somewhere around here on the board. That would be my guess. If I guess that's Cam Ward. We kind of do have that. I made up a player when the player already exists. So I'm going to take Algier on this team. Continue building out the bet on the Falcons. Big contingent upside if something happens to Bijan. If something happened to Bijan, then we would have the alpha receiver in a pretty strong running back, plug and play running back there. So Algier is one of these guys in this range that I certainly go after. An argument could have been made for continuing the bet on the Commanders with Eckler. I think that would have been perfectly fine as well. McMillan and Knoll, those are fine guys. Knoll to me is a little bit of the end of a tier of guys that I'm excited to take. After that, I don't see a ton of difference. Thielen is such a wild card. I mean, he's going to go off the age cliff at some point. The question is when. Now that they have Ted McMillan, does he get phased out sooner than later? All the 3 QB info for advancing came out. Huhames, first of all, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. And yeah, I think people have started, to recognize that 3 QB is a viable build here. It does help your advance rate. And, in the playoff rounds, having 3 strong QB stacks is definitely, is definitely something you want more than you don't want, I will say. I took Austin Eckler there, so now I have a, potential out with Daniels to Eckler. So going over the team, we've got Daniels and Penix at QB, Chuba Hubbard, Quinshon Judkins, Jalen Warren, Tyler Algier, and Austin Eckler at running back, Puka Nacua, Drake London, Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, Keon Coleman at receiver, and Hawkinson and Warren at tight end. Somehow it feels like I have thin running back and receiver rooms. Don't love that. Part of that definitely is taking an elite QB. I don't do elite QB a ton. And I think if you don't get good falling value, then your skill positions can feel thin. And this is definitely one of those lineups where they feel a little thin to me. It doesn't seem bad, but this is not like a lineup I'm going to look at and say I have constructed a super team. Not that I don't like the lineup or how it's coming out, but having the 2 Commanders receivers as my 3 and 4, a little sketchy, and then my 5th receiver being Keon Coleman, who I legitimately do not like, but I'm kind of just sprinkling him in. Not the best option at 5th receiver, but it's a build. Zach Ertz would have been nice if he came around. He could have completed the whole Washington thing. I could end this team at 2 tight ends, but I might add a 3rd late tight end. Let's see what comes around. See, in this room, of course, now these quarterbacks are like falling quite late, which is a little unusual to get this kind of drop on Cam Ward and Geno. Geno has been a big riser. In some rooms, he gets snapped off pretty early. There are people who are definitely excited about the Raiders, and so I'm surprised he's lasted this long. Might end up as a situation where Rico Dowdle is staring me in the face. I could potentially add him. They did add Little Etienne to the Carolina backfield. I think that's getting a little too cute. I probably want to take, if Pat Bryant is here, I'll take Pat Bryant. Sarjo snapped me off on one of the rookies I wanted earlier. Well, I think it was Tootin. So let's see if it happens again. It does not. So I'm going to add Pat Bryant to this team. Sean Payton has an affinity for big wide receivers. Pat Bryant fits the build. And again, I think I need additional wide receiver help more than handcuffing my running backs at this point. Geno seems to have a big range depending on the room. Yeah, he does randomly. His ADP, if you did some kind of like min and max sort of thing, it would probably be a bit wider than a lot of other players in quarterbacks, because he will randomly just last a long time. Like, I'm starting to get tempted by Geno Smith, but I don't think that's good. I don't think he's going to be a huge help to this team. Just looking at my potential options late, I don't think. To me, Washington doesn't have another receiver I want late. They drafted Lane. I'm not really big on him. I don't want to take. I don't want to do the McCaffrey thing again. The Falcons, I don't think they have any truly late options that I'm really enamored with. I'll take Demario Douglas on this team. He's a little meat and potatoes-y. If he remains in the slot in New England, that's an offense we think is going to be a little bit better. Kind of a little bit of a boring pick, but I think this team might need that. Might need a guy who's just going to hit the lineup, especially if the Commanders pass catchers don't get there. It's looking pretty grim if I need something from Coleman, Bryant, or Demario Douglas. At least I think Demario Douglas is going to be somewhat dependable kind of guy. Basically, Michael Thomas in the 15th, according to Sean Payton. Yeah, the least reliable narrator in history, but he I feel like he just drafts guys and just gets buyer's remorse. Like he took Mims and then didn't play him. Like he took Estime and then there's a game day inactive in the playoffs. Like what is he? I do not get. I do not understand what Peyton does. I'm in on Pop at cost. Nice, Lutz. Thanks for stopping by. First of all, and secondly, I am glad to hear that Pop Douglas is on the approved list here. Are you mostly just week 17, or you take other playoff weeks into account? I think I haven't really decided for this year how much I want to do that. I mentioned earlier, I do worry that we have a tendency of like breaking ties too much to week 17 matchups. And what we end up doing is, correlating two players together who are otherwise uncorrelated other than, week 17. And, we can consider week 17 as 1/4 of the season. We have the first 14 games are a quarter, and then each playoff week, subsequent week is another quarter. So for 3/4 of the season, these guys have nothing to do with each other. And if I tie them together, like every time I draft them, then I do, my risk of ruin increases. I've also kind of have it in my mind that, I think I read that we're starting to do bringbacks a little too frequently in DFS contests. Like it's become something that we do, and the edge in bringbacks is essentially gone. So I do, I what I want to keep doing is building bets on good offenses and in doing some level of game stacking, but not going crazy, not trying to do it every single time. Because again, I mean, it's they can end up being uncorrelated. You can get to the week 17 game itself, and that could just not be the bring back you need, and you would have been better off with somebody else. You could end up in a situation where most people who advance in that room then have that combination, and you actually might, from a game theory wise, want a different combination. So there's just so many unknowns that I don't want to just default to game stacking because it feels good. Again, I'm not saying not to game stack. I'm just saying we should be thoughtful in how we do it. So I took DJ Giddens there. I already have Warren, so building out a little bit of the Colts bet that we have going on here. Let's see what comes around. Man, Geno is still here. It's kind of crazy that Geno Smith is undrafted at this point, to the point where, like, who's going to help this team more, Chig Okonkwo or Geno Smith? I don't know. This is tough. I almost feel like I should take him. But just the fact that I have absolutely no stack, I'm going to take Jatavion Sanders. I have Chuba Hubbard, so I got a little bit of a Carolina thing going, and that will round out the team. So I've got Daniels and Penix at QB, Hubbard, Judkins, Warren, Algier, Eckler, and Giddens at running back, Puka, London, McLaurin, Samuel, Keon Coleman, Pat Bryant, Demario Douglas at wide receiver, and then TJ Hawkinson, Tyler Warren, and Jatavion Sanders at tight end. Let's see what Kevin ended up doing. Kevin wrapped up his team with Coker, Tesla, with no Goff. Kevin, this breaks my heart. Elijah Moore and Ollie Gordon. Love the Ollie Gordon click. I find myself taking him quite a bit. Chaz Michael taking Sean Tucker, which I think is a little bit of an interesting pick. I could see him having some upside. I'm not taking any White over there in Tampa. I could see him getting phased out. I mean, he was on the field and got 0 carries in at least one game and starting late in the season. So I'm a little worried about that pick. I don't know if I'm taking Tucker yet, but he's something that I am keeping an eye on. I'm pretty aligned with you on that. I try to draft good players on good teams with good roles, not rocket science. Yes, I think we overcomplicate this game sometimes. I think sometimes, we fall over ourselves. And another thing about week 17 correlating that people do is they like reach massively. So they sacrifice a lot of projection. So if you're sacrificing projection, you're making it far less likely you even get there. Not to try to be there. You got to get there in the first row, but like, you do have to get there. And if you're sacrificing huge amounts of EV on your team, then that's not good. Agreed. If I try to stack anything, stay away from chalky week 17 stacks. And if anything, look out for an instance. Not many were on like Chargers, Raiders, but that game turned out nice. The QJ Jacoby, yes. I thought it was last year, but I guess it was 2 years ago. The Jets Browns game was like the Giga Smash game you needed, and we all thought that game was going to be absolutely terrible. So yeah, there's certainly a potential edge in finding those week 17 games that are going less stacked, that people are not as interested. Would have done well. Yeah, if that stack would have done well. Couldn't let the Goff drafter get Tesla. Love it. Yes. Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna take unstacked Goff, you just gotta eat it. But yeah, thanks everyone for stopping by again. I'm typically gonna try to do at least 2 drafts, but again, I joined this one late, so I only had the time for the one today. But if you could please like and subscribe, that would be amazing. We're on the road to 100 subs. We are getting close. Tomorrow, I will be appearing on the Fan Speak Network with their Friends of Best Ball show. So this will be my first guest appearance on another channel. If I can stream before then, I will at my usual 8 or 9 a.m. time. But 10 a.m. tomorrow, Fan Speak Network. They're doing great stuff over there, and I am excited to be on the show for the day. This was a Lions, Vikings, and Bills, Eagles team, and even without Goff, I don't have any Teslas. Well, Kevin, we know you are one of the left-wing slappies, so I know you would not be caught dead in a Tesla, so I certainly understand the fade. Good luck with it. Thank you. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. But again, everybody, appreciate you coming by. Appreciate the likes and the subs, and I will see you all tomorrow. Take care, everyone.